My boss humiliated me in front of everyone. The next day I became his boss and everything changed. If this story interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. Emily Parker adjusted the collar of her simple shirt while observing her reflection in a store window. The late afternoon sun bathed the buildings of Chicago with golden hues, creating a peculiar contrast with her discreet figure. At 34, she carried in her gaze the determination of someone who knew well the taste of daily battles, but also the serenity of someone who knew exactly where she wanted to go. The headquarters of Future Tech, one of the most promising startups in North America, stood imposingly before her. The mirrored building reflected not only the evening light, but also the aspirations of hundreds of young people who dreamed of being part of that universe of innovation and technology. Emily took a deep breath, adjusted her bag on her shoulder, and walked through the revolving doors. In the reception area, a young woman with an impeccable appearance greeted her with a procedural smile. "May I help you?" Emily confirmed with a discreet nod, introducing herself only as a visitor interested in getting to know the environment. Her plan was simple. Before officially taking up the position of Chief Technology Officer, she wanted to feel the real atmosphere of the company, away from the formalities and social masks that usually accompanied official presentations. As she walked through the modern corridors, she observed every detail. The glass walls revealed rooms full of young developers focused on their screens, ping-pong tables strategically positioned for moments of relaxation, and lounges decorated with motivational phrases in neon. The environment breathed innovation, but Emily noticed subtleties that went beyond the trendy facade. It was when she reached the 12th floor that her silent reconnaissance plan was interrupted. Richard Miller, the company's innovation manager and a well-known figure in the technology market, crossed her path with the characteristic arrogance of someone accustomed to being revered. His Italian suit and designer watch contrasted with the simplicity of Emily's clothes. Lost? The question came loaded with disdain. Emily remained calm, explaining that she was just getting to know the environment. "This is no place for the curious," Richard cut in, deliberately raising his voice so nearby employees could hear. "The reception is downstairs. I suggest you seek proper guidance before causing any greater embarrassment." The silence that followed was filled with contained laughter and looks of complicity among those present. Emily felt the weight of each gaze, of each corner smile. They were the same types of expressions she had faced throughout her trajectory, from the days when she studied programming, using the free Wi-Fi in the public squares of her city. Instead of reacting, she just smiled slightly. "Thank you for the guidance," she responded, with a calmness that disconcerted Richard for a moment. She turned around and walked to the elevator, feeling the weight of whispered comments on her back. As the doors closed, her smile widened. In less than 24 hours, that same corridor would be the stage for one of the biggest turnarounds that Future Tech had ever witnessed. Back on the street, Emily observed once more the building that would soon be her workplace. The sun was now setting completely, and the first stars were beginning to dot the Chicago sky. She thought of her mother, who for years worked as a cleaner to ensure that her daughter could study. She thought of the computer donated by the community center, her first work tool. She thought of all the nights she spent programming, while other young people her age enjoyed life without worries. She took out her cell phone and reread the message she had received the previous week, a confidential invitation to take over as Chief Technology Officer at Future Tech. Tomorrow, when she would go up to the stage of the main auditorium for her official presentation, she would not just be a new executive taking office. She would be living proof that talent and determination can indeed break seemingly insurmountable social barriers. As she walked toward the subway, Emily was already mentally planning the changes she would implement. It wouldn't be easy. She knew she would face resistance, veiled prejudice, and attempts at sabotage, but she also knew that each obstacle would just be another step in her ascent. The game was just beginning, and she had all the cards in hand to turn it in her favor. The Future Tech auditorium was packed the next morning. The buzz of parallel conversations filled the environment as employees from all departments settled into the comfortable red armchairs. In the front row, Richard Miller adjusted his silk tie, chatting animatedly with Melissa Vance Sr., Operations Director. Both speculated about the mysterious announcement that had gathered the entire company on that Monday. "They say it's a complete restructuring," whispered Melissa, her expensive perfume permeating the air around. "Perhaps they'll finally recognize your work with a promotion, Richard." Her calculated smile hid her own agenda. As the only woman in senior management until then, Melissa carefully cultivated her position of power, building strategic alliances, and eliminating potential threats with the same elegance with which she chose her jewelry. The auditorium lights gradually dimmed, and Alex Whitman, the CEO of Future Tech, took the stage. His natural charisma immediately captured the attention of all present. "Good morning, Future Tech family," he began, his voice conveying a mixture of enthusiasm and seriousness. "We are here today for an announcement that will mark a new chapter in the history of our company." Richard adjusted himself in his chair, his confident smile masking his expectation. Melissa crossed her legs, maintaining her characteristic pose of studied indifference. Neither was prepared for what would come next. "It is with great satisfaction that I present the new Chief Technology Officer of Future Tech," continued Alex, "a professional who has stood out in the market for her technical excellence, innovative vision and leadership capacity. Please welcome Emily Parker." The silence that followed was deafening. Emily emerged from the wings with firm steps, wearing a navy blue blazer that exuded professionalism and confidence. Her eyes met Richard's, who instantly paled as he recognized the curious visitor from the day before. Melissa, in turn, let out a small gasp of surprise, her mask of composure faltering for a moment. "Good morning, everyone," Emily began her speech, her clear and assertive voice echoing through the auditorium. "Some of you have already had the opportunity to meet me yesterday, albeit under interesting circumstances." Her gaze briefly passed over Richard, who was now intently studying his own shoes. "But today I'm not here to talk about first impressions. I'm here to talk about the future, innovation, and mainly transformation." As Emily developed her presentation, detailing her vision for the technology department and the new projects she planned to implement, Melissa observed attentively, her mind already calculating how this new piece would affect the company's power board. Richard, in turn, alternated between shades of red and white, his habitual arrogance completely disarranged. "Our company stands out for its capacity for innovation," continued Emily. "But true innovation doesn't just come from advanced technology. It comes from diversity of thoughts, experiences, origins. It comes from the ability to see opportunities where others see only obstacles." At the end of her presentation, the applause was genuine, albeit not unanimous. As she descended from the stage, Emily noticed the diverse looks: admiration from some, skepticism from others, and a poorly disguised hostility from certain members of the board. She knew that the battle was just beginning. Melissa was the first to approach, her professional smile masking a thorough analysis. "Welcome to the team, Emily. I'm sure we'll have an interesting partnership." Her words sounded like honey, but carried a subtext of warning that didn't go unnoticed. Richard kept his distance, whispering with a group of managers. His agitated gestures and annoyed expression indicated that the show of humility during the presentation had been only temporary. Emily knew that he would not easily accept having an intruder as his direct superior. While greeting other team members, Emily kept a watchful eye on the dynamics developing around her. She noticed the small groups that formed, the exchanged glances, the cell phones that didn't stop vibrating with messages. An invisible web of alliances and resistances was being woven at that very moment. Emily's first week at Future Tech turned out to be a minefield of subtle challenges and carefully orchestrated obstacles. On Wednesday morning, she arrived at the office for her first strategic meeting with the development team, only to discover that the schedule had been changed without her knowledge. The meeting room, which should have been full, remained empty. "I'm sorry, Emily," said her assistant, Olivia, genuinely embarrassed. "Richard sent an email last night rescheduling for 2 p.m. I thought you had been copied." Olivia's tone made it clear that this wasn't the first time important information had been forgotten to be shared with the new director. Instead of showing frustration, Emily took advantage of the free morning to do something that no previous director had done. She personally visited each development team, sitting next to the programmers, listening to their difficulties and suggestions. In one of these conversations, she met Brian, a newly hired young developer who, like her, came from a social project. "Ma'am, you really understand code?" asked Brian, surprised when Emily pointed out a possible optimization in his project. His eyes shone when she sat next to him and began to explain some advanced programming techniques that could solve a problem the team had been facing for weeks. In the cafeteria, during lunch, Emily noticed the curious looks and whispers. Melissa. Vance occupied a central table, like a queen in her court, surrounded by other directors and senior managers. Her gaze met Emily's for a moment, and she made a polite gesture of invitation. It was a calculated move, a test of submission disguised as courtesy. Emily smiled in thanks, but chose to sit with a group of junior developers, including Brian. The message was clear. She wasn't there to play the traditional games of corporate power. The decision didn't go unnoticed. Melissa adjusted her posture, her cordial smile masking a flash of irritation. During the rescheduled afternoon meeting, Richard presented a series of incomplete technical reports, clearly expecting to catch Emily unprepared. To his surprise, she not only identified the inconsistencies, but presented practical solutions for each problem raised. Years bent over codes and security systems had given her deep knowledge that went far beyond appearances. "Impressive how you master the technical details," commented Melissa after the meeting, her tone oscillating between admiration and irony. "It must have been difficult to acquire so much knowledge in the circumstances in which you were trained." The comment, seemingly innocent, carried a subtle poison that didn't go unnoticed by those present. Emily maintained a serene smile. "Actually, Melissa, I believe my circumstances were my greatest advantage. When you have no choice but to be excellent, you learn to overcome any obstacle." The response, polite but firm, left Melissa momentarily speechless. At the end of the day, while organizing her desk, Emily found an anonymous post-it with an enigmatic message. "Not everything is what it seems. Be careful with the Phoenix project files." She discreetly kept the note, her mind already processing the implications. In her years of experience with digital security, she had learned that the biggest threats often hid in the most subtle details. On ice. Her way out of the office, she crossed paths with Brian again. The young developer seemed anxious. "Director Emily, can I have a minute?" His voice trembled slightly. "There's something I think you need to see. It's about some strange accesses in the main system." Emily nodded, realizing her investigation would need to start earlier than she had planned. As she drove home that night, Emily reflected on the day's events. The sabotage attempts, the power games, the mysterious note, and now Brian's information, all indicated that there was much more at stake than simple resistance to her leadership. Future Tech harbored deeper secrets, and she was determined to discover them. The next morning, Emily arrived earlier at the office, determined to investigate the information that Brian had shared. The building was still practically empty, except for some cleaning staff and night security guards. The silence of the corridors contrasted with the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. Sitting in her office, she began to examine the access logs that Brian had mentioned. Her years of experience in digital security soon identified suspicious patterns. There were regular accesses to the main server during the early morning hours, always from the same IP, manipulating files from the Phoenix project, the same one mentioned in the anonymous note. "Interesting," she murmured to herself, noting that the accesses coincided with the days when Richard usually stayed late at the office. Even more intriguing was the fact that large data packages were being transferred to an unknown external server. A gentle knock on the door interrupted her analysis. It was Olivia, her assistant, bringing a worried expression on her face. "Emily, sorry to bother you so early, but something strange happened. Some important meetings were cancelled from your calendar, and I'm sure it wasn't me." Emily nodded, already expecting this kind of sabotage. "Olivia, I need you to do something for me. Keep a parallel record of all appointments, independent of the system. And one more thing, I want you to discreetly observe who accesses my electronic calendar. As she navigated deeper into the system records, Emily discovered something even more disturbing. The Phoenix Project, apparently an artificial intelligence development for process optimization, had a structure very similar to a private project that Richard had been promoting at industry events. "Excuse me, Director," Brian's voice sounded, low at the door. "Can I show you one more thing?" The young developer entered cautiously, carrying his laptop. "I found some code fragments that seem to have been copied from our main system." Emily examined the evidence presented by Brian, her heart accelerating with each new discovery. It wasn't just a matter of personal sabotage. She was facing something much bigger. Richard apparently was developing a parallel project, using resources and intellectual property from future tech. The sound of heels in the corridor announced Melissa Vance's arrival. The senior director passed by Emily's office, casting a curious look at Brian's presence there so early. "Extraordinary meeting in 10 minutes, Emily. Don't be late." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes conveyed a different message. In the meeting room, Emily found not only Melissa, but also Alex Whitman, the CEO. "Emily, we're concerned about some complaints," began Melissa, her artificial smile not reaching her eyes. "It seems you've been dedicating too much time to junior developers and ignoring important protocols of hierarchy." "Furthermore," continued Melissa, "Richard mentioned that you've been making unauthorized accesses to sensitive projects." She slid a folder across the table. "We have here records of your suspicious activities in the system." Emily maintained her composure. Years of experience in cyber crises had taught her the importance of timing. "Interesting that you mention unauthorized accesses, Melissa. I have here some data that the board should see." She opened her laptop, projecting on the screen a detailed analysis of the nighttime accesses and suspicious transfers. Alex leaned forward, his interest visibly aroused. Melissa, in turn, slightly paled. "This doesn't prove anything," she argued, but her voice betrayed a note of concern. "Perhaps not," agreed Emily, "but I'm sure the legal department will be interested in analyzing this evidence, especially considering the similarities with certain personal projects that have been presented at industry events." The silence that followed was heavy. Alex cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "Melissa, could you excuse us? I need to speak with Emily in private." As Melissa withdrew, her heels echoing more heavily than normal, Emily realized she had just significantly changed the power game at Future Tech. The private conversation with Alex extended for more than 2 hours. The CEO of Future Tech alternated between expressions of concern and indignation as Emily presented her findings. The evidence was compelling. Not only was code being copied, but there were also indications of manipulation in contracts and financial documents. "This is more serious than we thought." Alex ran his hand through his graying hair, visibly disturbed. "But we need to act with caution. Richard has powerful connections in the market, and a scandal of this magnitude could affect our next round of investments." Emily leaned forward, her voice firm and determined. "Alex, I understand your concern, but have you thought about the damage if this leaks in another way, if they discover that we knew and did nothing?" The argument hit the CEO like a precise shot. He knew she was right. Upon leaving the meeting, Emily found a surprise. Jane Thompson, the veteran of the finance department, was waiting for her in the corridor. "Can we talk in private?" whispered the accountant, her restless eyes checking if there was no one nearby. In the privacy of her office, Jane revealed that for months, she had been noticing irregularities in the accounts presented by Richard. Contracts with inflated values, supplier companies with no history in the market. I tried to alert Melissa several times, but she always dismissed my concerns. The conversation with Jane was interrupted by the arrival of Brian, who brought new discoveries. "Director, I managed to track the external servers. They are all registered in the name of a company called Phoenix Innovation Lab." Emily and Jane exchanged significant looks. It was the same name as the personal project that Richard had been promoting. Meanwhile, in the corridors of the company, the tension was palpable. Melissa circulated among the departments, her calculated smiles masking a growing concern. She knew that something big was happening, but for the first time in years she didn't have control over the situation. During lunch, Emily received an unexpected message. Sophie Chen, a senior developer who had always remained neutral in internal disputes, asked for a discreet meeting. At the cafe near the company, Sophie revealed that Richard had tried to recruit her for his parallel project months ago. He promised equity participation, doubled salary, but something didn't smell right, explained Sophie, nervously fiddling with her coffee cup. When I refused, he began to exclude me from important projects, relegating me to minor tasks. The puzzle was beginning to form more clearly. Emily realized that she wasn't alone in her battle. There were others in the company, equally bothered by Richard's dubious practices and Melissa's complacency. It was time to transform these isolated connections into a support network. Back at the office, Emily began to implement subtle but significant changes. She instituted weekly alignment meetings between departments, breaking down the barriers that Richard and Melissa had carefully built over the years. She created direct communication channels with the development teams, eliminating the need for intermediaries who filtered information. The team's response was surprisingly positive. Developers who previously kept quiet began to contribute innovative ideas. The work environment, previously charged with tension and mistrust, began to breathe an air of renewal. At the end of that afternoon, while organizing the collected evidence, Emily received an unexpected visit. Jennifer Torres, a member of the board of directors, appeared in her office without warning. "I heard you've been making some interesting discoveries," she said, closing the door behind her. "And also that you have a different vision for the company. I'd like to hear more about that." The presence of Jennifer, known for her influence on the board, signaled an important change in the balance of power. Emily realized that this was a crucial moment. She now had the attention of someone who could effectively catalyze the necessary changes. As she shared her discoveries and her vision for the company, Emily noticed something different in Jennifer's gaze. It wasn't just professional interest, but genuine admiration for the work being done. For the first time since she took office, Emily felt that she wasn't just fighting against a corrupt system, but building the foundations for a real transformation. The morning began with an unusual buzz in the corridors of Future Tech. A spreadsheet, with the salaries of the executive board, had mysteriously appeared posted on the main bulletin board of the 12th floor. Next to Emily's name, comments in red pen questioned the exorbitant value of her remuneration, with malicious insinuations about her humble origins. "This is unacceptable," exclaimed Olivia, trying to tear down the paper before more people saw it. Emily, however, stopped her with a serene gesture. Instead of removing the spreadsheet or showing embarrassment, she did something unexpected. She stood on a chair in the middle of the cafeteria during lunch hour. "Good morning, everyone," her clear voice silenced the parallel conversations. "I came to talk about the spreadsheet that someone kindly shared today. Yes, that is my salary. Every penny of it was earned with study, dedication, and competence. If anyone thinks the value is high, perhaps they're underestimating the cost of excellence." The silence that followed was broken by spontaneous applause. At the back of the cafeteria, Melissa observed the scene with an enigmatic expression, while Richard, seated near the exit, kept his eyes fixed on his cell phone, his fingers furiously typing. But retaliation was not long in coming. That same afternoon, during a crucial presentation to foreign investors, Emily noticed something strange in her slides. Someone had discreetly altered some numbers and graphs, making the results less impressive than they really were. It was then that Brian, seated in the last row of the auditorium, raised his hand. "Director, I think there was an error in the data. Can I share my laptop screen? I have the correct numbers from the last report here." The intervention of the young developer not only saved the presentation, but also evidenced the attempt at sabotage. After the meeting, Jennifer Torres pulled Emily into a reserved room. "Impressive how you handled the situation," commented the board member. "But I need to warn you, Richard has called an extraordinary board meeting for tomorrow. He claims to have evidence that you're conducting a witch hunt in the company. Emily smiled, a determined gleam in her eyes. Great. It will be the perfect opportunity to present my own discoveries. She took out her tablet and showed Jennifer a series of meticulously organized documents. Each suspicious access, each irregular transfer, each line of copied code, it's all here. That night, while most employees had already gone home, Emily remained in her office, refining her presentation for the next day. She was surprised by a soft knock on the door. It was Sophie Chen, accompanied by 3 other senior developers. "We've come to offer our support," said Sophie. "We know what Richard has been doing and we can't stand staying silent any longer." One of the developers, Mark, added, "We have copies of emails and messages that prove he tried to recruit several of us for his parallel project." Jane, the accountant, joined the group shortly after, bringing a folder full of financial documents. "Here's everything catalogued: inflated invoices, contracts with shell companies, deviations disguised as infrastructure investments." While organizing the evidence, Emily reflected on how her arrival had catalyzed a change that was already latent in the company. People who previously felt intimidated or powerless now found courage to speak up, uniting around a common purpose. An alert on her computer caught her attention. One more attempt to access the company's servers, coming from the already known IP. "He doesn't give up," murmured Emily, quickly activating the security protocols she had implemented. In the company's parking lot, hours later, Emily observed the city lights through the glass windows of the building. Tomorrow would be a decisive day, not just for her career, but for the future of future tech. The truth would come to light, and with it, the opportunity to transform the company into what it always should have been, a space of genuine innovation based on merit and transparency. The boardroom of Future Tech emanated tension the next morning. The board members occupied their leather chairs around the imposing mahogany table, their faces revealing different degrees of apprehension. Richard arrived early, impeccable in his Italian suit, carrying a black folder that he deposited with studied casualness on the table. Melissa was seated strategically next to the empty chair destined for Emily, her expensive perfume competing with the aroma of freshly served coffee. Jennifer Torres, on the other side of the table, maintained a neutral expression while leafing through some documents. When Emily entered the room, the silence became even denser. She wore a navy blue blazer over a white blouse. Simple, professional, without ostentation. In her hands, a tablet and a small external storage unit containing the result of nights of meticulous investigation. "Board members, thank you all for being here," began Richard, rising with a confident smile. "I called this extraordinary meeting to discuss a serious situation that has been harming the work environment and productivity of future tech." He projected on the screen a series of carefully manipulated graphs and reports. "Since the arrival of Ms. Parker, we have observed a significant drop in the development of key projects. Furthermore, her insistence on privileging junior employees has created a climate of dissatisfaction among our more experienced collaborators." Melissa subtly nodded her head at each point raised, while other board members took notes. Richard continued, "Even more concerning are the unauthorized accesses to confidential projects, clearly documented in these records." Emily remained serene, observing each of Richard's movements. When he finally concluded his presentation, she calmly stood up. "Gentlemen, before responding to Mr. Miller's accusations, I'd like to share some relevant information." With a few touches on her tablet, Emily projected a new series of data on the screen. "These are the complete access records to our servers in the last 6 months. As you can observe, there have been regular data transfers to an external server, always at the same time." Richard's face slightly paled when Emily opened a new set of files. "This is the source code of the Phoenix project, developed by Future Tech. And this," she slid to the next slide, "is the code of the personal project that Mr. Miller has been presenting at industry events. Note the similarities, or rather, the absolute identity between them." A murmur ran through the room. Melissa shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Emily continued. But this is just the surface. With the help of our financial team, we discovered a complex network of inflated contracts and shell companies. Jane, who had been waiting outside, was called to present the financial documentation. As she explained each irregularity found, Richard began to visibly sweat. Melissa, perceiving the direction of the situation, tried to intervene. This is clearly an attempt at defamation. No, Melissa, interrupted Jennifer Torres, her voice cutting. This is concrete evidence of corporate fraud. And from what I'm seeing in the emails attached here, you were aware of part of these activities. The room exploded in heated discussions. Richard, in a last desperate attempt, rose abruptly. This is a plot. This intruder is trying to destroy everything we've built. Intruder? Emily maintained her calm, her clear voice cutting through the chaos. Interesting choice of words, considering that I have here records of your attempts to invade our servers in the early hours of yesterday. Did you forget that we implemented new security protocols? Alex Whitman, who until then had been observing, in silence finally spoke up. Richard, Melissa, wait in the room next door. The board needs to deliberate. His tone left no room for discussion. As the two left, Emily presented her last piece of evidence, recorded testimonies of developers who had been harassed to participate in Richard's parallel project. With each new testimony, the board members' countenance became more serious. Jennifer Torres approached Emily after the presentation. You not only identified the problem, you built a network of allies and documented everything meticulously. Impressive. As the board met to deliberate, Emily observed the city through the windows of the room. The morning sun illuminated the buildings, and she couldn't help but think about how that moment represented not just her personal victory, but a fundamental change in the company's culture. The board's decision was unanimous. Richard would be immediately removed from his duties, and Melissa would be reallocated to a position without decision-making power. The news spread quickly through the corridors of Future Tech, provoking diverse reactions among the employees. Emily, now with total autonomy to implement changes, wasted no time. Her first action was to call a general meeting with all employees. The auditorium, which weeks before had witnessed her initial presentation, was now even more packed. Future Tech is entering a new era, she began, her voice carrying a mixture of firmness and empathy. An era where talent, dedication, and integrity will be the only criteria for professional growth. In the days that followed, the transformations began to take shape. Emily implemented a revolutionary talent development program, focused especially on young people from underprivileged communities. The Phoenix program, she explained to the board, will be our way of transforming a symbol of fraud into a project of real social impact. Brian, the young developer who had been crucial in the discoveries, was promoted to technical leader of a new team dedicated to social innovation. Sophie Chen took over the coordination of the development department, bringing with her a new approach to project management. We don't just want to create technology, explained Sophie in one of the first meetings under her leadership. We want to create solutions that make a difference in people's lives. Jane, the accountant who had helped expose the fraud, was appointed to lead a new division of compliance and corporate transparency. Her first task was to implement more rigorous auditing systems and secure channels for internal reports. The environment in the company began to change visibly. The old hierarchical divisions began to dissolve, replaced by a culture of collaboration and real meritocracy. The workspaces were redesigned to promote more interaction between teams. Jennifer Torres, impressed with the changes, became an even closer ally. You're not just fixing problems, she commented during a coffee. You're creating a new management model that other companies will want to follow. One afternoon, while walking through the corridors, Emily found a young intern working concentratedly on her computer. As she approached, she noticed that the girl wore a badge with the logo of a social project, the same one that had given Emily her first opportunity years ago. "How is your experience here?" asked Emily, sitting next to the intern. The young woman, initially shy, gradually opened up. "It's amazing. I never thought I'd have a chance in a company like this. But now seeing someone like you in management, I know it's possible to dream bigger." Those words touched Emily deeply. She remembered her own struggles, the nights studying with borrowed Wi-Fi, the donated computer that opened her doors to the world of technology. Now she was in a position to open those same doors for others. The Phoenix program quickly became a success story in the market. Other companies began to seek out future tech, interested in replicating the model. Emily began to be invited to lectures and events, not just to talk about technology, but about corporate transformation and social inclusion. In one of these lectures, she shared a reflection that summarized her journey. True innovation doesn't just come from codes and algorithms. It comes from the diversity of experiences, the courage to question the established, and the determination to create opportunities where others see only obstacles. The story of future tech's transformation began to circulate in the market as an example of how a company can reinvent itself. The stock value soared and job applications multiplied. But for Emily, the true success was in the small moments, in the proud smile of an intern seeing their code implemented, in the growing confidence of professionals who previously felt invisible, in the renewed energy that now pulsed through the corridors of the company. 6 months had passed since the transformation at Future Tech. The office now pulsed with a different energy. The old competitive and tense environment had given way to a space of collaboration and genuine innovation. The glass walls, once symbols of hierarchy and isolation, now reflected a culture of transparency and integration. Emily observed with discreet satisfaction the movement in the new social space she had created on the 12th floor, precisely where months before she had faced her first confrontation with Richard. There, junior and senior developers freely shared ideas without the old hierarchical barriers. "Maria's social project is ready for presentation," announced Brian, now much more confident in his role as technical leader. She managed to develop an incredible application to connect small rural producers directly to urban consumers. Maria was one of the discoveries of the Phoenix program. Daughter of farmers from the countryside, she had learned programming in a technical course and was now revolutionizing the way small producers marketed their products. Her project was just one of many that were changing the face of the company. That afternoon, during a board meeting, Jennifer Torres presented the latest results. "Our productivity has increased 60% since implementing the new management model. But the most impressive are the innovation numbers. We've registered more patents in the last 6 months than in the last 3 years." Alex, who had initially shown skepticism about the radical changes proposed by Emily, was now one of her biggest supporters. "The market is noticing. We received 4 partnership proposals just this week, all from companies that want to learn from our social innovation model." Future Tech's success was beginning to influence the entire technology ecosystem. Other companies in the sector began to replicate initiatives similar to the Phoenix program. The specialized press began to highlight how a traditional company had reinvented itself, becoming a reference in inclusive innovation. Sophie Chen, now Director of Development, had implemented a revolutionary system of reverse mentoring. Junior developers, especially those coming from diverse backgrounds, shared their unique perspectives with senior executives. "It's amazing how we've changed our way of thinking," commented Sophie during a presentation. "Before, we saw diversity as a matter of social responsibility. Today we understand that it's our greatest competitive advantage." On a particularly busy afternoon, Emily received an unexpected visit in her office. It was Olivia, her former assistant, now coordinator of special projects. "Emily, you need to see this," she said, excited, showing her tablet. On the screen, a viral video showed a young developer from the countryside telling how Future Tech's mentoring program had changed her life. "When I saw that the technology director had a story similar to mine, I realized that my dreams weren't impossible," she said, with tears in her eyes. The video had thousands of shares and inspiring comments. Entrepreneurs, educators, and young people from all over the country were tagging Future Tech, wanting to know more about their technological inclusion initiatives. Emily smiled, remembering her own journey. The donated computer that changed her life now multiplied into thousands of opportunities for other dreaming young people. The free Wi-Fi from the square had been transformed into a robust program of technological training. At the end of that week, during a company happy hour, another innovation she had implemented to promote integration, Emily observed with satisfaction how different teams naturally mixed, sharing ideas and laughter. Jane, now Director of Compliance, approached with a smile. "You know what impresses me the most? It's not just the financial success or the technological innovations. It's seeing how you transformed a toxic environment into a community." Jennifer, who had just arrived, completed, "And the most incredible thing is that we did this without compromising excellence. In fact, we discovered that inclusion and excellence go hand in hand." That night, while organizing her desk to leave, Emily found an old photo, herself still a teenager studying on a park bench. She placed the photo next to a more recent one, where she appeared mentoring a group of young developers from the Phoenix program. The contrast between the two images told not just her story, but the story of a much bigger transformation than herself. The success of the Phoenix program quickly surpassed Future Tech's borders. In less than a year, the project had transformed into a national initiative, with partnerships established with public universities and technological centers in various regions of the country. On a sunny morning, Emily participated in the inauguration of the first social innovation center of Future Tech, strategically located near the square, where she used to study with borrowed Wi-Fi. The space, equipped with cutting-edge technology, offered free programming and digital entrepreneurship courses for young people from underprivileged communities. "This center is more than a building with computers," Emily spoke during the opening ceremony. "It's the materialization of a dream that began on a park bench with a girl determined to learn programming even without resources." Among those present was her mother, Margaret, who couldn't contain tears of pride. The former cleaner, who for years had supported her daughter with her hard work, now saw the result of all that effort multiplied in opportunities for hundreds of other young people. Brian, who coordinated the center's mentoring program, presented the first results. "We already have more than 200 students enrolled, and 3 of them developed applications that were selected for incubation at Future Tech." One of these applications was the project of Anna, a 17-year-old girl who created a platform to connect public school students to internship opportunities in technology companies. "I was inspired by Emily's story," explained Anna, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "If she could do it, why not me?" The impact of Emily's work began to be recognized internationally. Invitations for lectures and conferences arrived daily, but she made a point of keeping her main focus on the development of new talents. During a program evaluation meeting, Sophie shared an interesting discovery. The most innovative projects are coming precisely from students with the most diverse backgrounds. They bring solutions to problems that we often didn't even realize existed. Jane, analyzing the numbers of the project, added, "And the most impressive thing is that the return on investment is extraordinary. Each dollar invested in the program generates a social impact equivalent to 5 times the value." Jennifer Torres, who had become one of the biggest enthusiasts of the project, proposed an even bigger expansion. "We need to take this model to other companies. We already have 10 corporations interested in replicating the Phoenix program." On a particularly significant afternoon, Emily received in her office a group of students from the program. Among them was Jason, a young man in a wheelchair who had developed a revolutionary digital accessibility system. "Before the program, I thought technology wasn't for people like me," shared Jason. "But here I learned that innovation has no barriers. We just need opportunity and support to show our potential." Jason's project soon caught the attention of major companies in the assistive technology sector. In a few months, his solution was being implemented in schools and institutions across the country, transforming the lives of thousands of people with disabilities. At the end of that day, while walking through the corridors of the Innovation Center, Emily stopped in front of a mural where students shared their dreams and goals. The messages, written on colorful post-its, reflected the same determination she carried years ago. I want to create technology that helps my community. I dream of being the first person in my family to work with innovation. I'll prove that talent has no zip code. Each message was a reminder that her journey had transformed into a catalyst for changes much bigger than she could imagine. The girl who studied with borrowed Wi-Fi was now responsible for creating a network of opportunities that expanded exponentially. Olivia, who had accompanied the growth of the program from the beginning, summarized the general feeling. You know what's most beautiful? Seeing how each success story inspires other people to dream bigger. It's like a chain reaction of social transformation. Emily smiled, thinking about how her journey had come full circle and spawned so much positive change for others. The success of Future Tech's Social Innovation Center began to attract international attention. On a spring morning, Emily received a visit from a delegation of executives from Silicon Valley, interested in understanding how an American company had managed to create such an efficient model of technological inclusion. The differential is in the authenticity of the process, explained Emily, as she guided the group through the space. We didn't create this as a marketing strategy. It was born from a real need, from a lived experience. Among the visitors was Sarah Martinez, CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the United States. It's impressive how you've managed to balance social impact with commercial results, she commented, observing a group of young programmers working on their projects. In the main laboratory, Brian was presenting the latest project developed by the program's students, an adaptive education platform that used artificial intelligence to personalize learning according to each student's social context. This project was born from Mariana's personal experience, one of our students, explained Brian. She realized that many students from public schools abandoned online courses because the content didn't consider their specific realities. Mariana, a 19-year-old from the outskirts of Chicago, explained her inspiration. When I tried to learn programming for the first time, all the examples were about buying stocks or booking resorts, realities that weren't part of my world. So we created a system that adapts the examples to the student's context. The presentation was interrupted by exciting news. The project had been selected for an international acceleration program. Mariana would be the first student of the Phoenix program to have the opportunity to present her innovation at a global technology event. See? Commented Sophie, who was accompanying the visit. When you give opportunity to people who know the real problems, the solutions that emerge are truly transformative. During lunch with the delegation, Emily was surprised by an unexpected proposal. Sarah Martinez wanted to establish a partnership to expand the Phoenix program model globally. What you've built here is extraordinary, said Sarah. It's not just about technology or social inclusion. It's about completely rethinking how innovation happens in the 21st century. The news of the international partnership spread quickly through the company. Jane, analyzing the financial implications of the agreement, couldn't contain her enthusiasm. This will exponentially multiply our impact. Imagine how many lives we can transform with these resources. Jennifer Torres, who was participating in the negotiations, added an important observation. The most interesting thing is that they don't just want to replicate the model. They want to learn from our experience, recognizing that innovation can also come from unexpected places. At the end of that day, Emily gathered the entire program team to share the news. The auditorium was packed with students, mentors, and employees eager to know the details of the international partnership. But before we talk about the future, said Emily, I want to share something with you. She projected on the screen an old photo, the park bench where she used to study. This place reminds me every day that talent and potential are everywhere. What's missing are opportunities. Next, she showed a sequence of photos of projects developed by the program's students, Anna's internship application, Jason's accessibility system, Mariana's adaptive platform. Each image told a story of transformation. You are living proof that innovation has no fixed address, no social class, no predefined limitations, continued Emily, her voice charged with emotion. "And now, with this international partnership, we'll be able to take this message to the world." The round of applause that followed was deafening. At the back of the auditorium, Margaret, who made a point of participating in all important events of the program, discreetly wiped away tears. Her work as a cleaner had helped plant a seed that now transformed into a leafy tree, offering shade and fruits for hundreds of other dreamers. The news of the international partnership accelerated the transformations at Future Tech even more. The 12th floor, once a symbol of the company's traditional power, now housed an open innovation space where students from the Phoenix program worked side by side with senior developers. On a particularly busy morning, Emily observed the comings and goings of people through the office when she noticed something peculiar. Where before there were clear divisions between different hierarchical levels, now there was a natural flow of ideas and collaboration. "It's incredible how we changed the company culture without needing to make big speeches about it," commented Sophie, who approached with a cup of coffee. "It happened organically, through example." Sophie's comment made Emily reflect on how small changes can generate big transformations. She remembered her first week as a director, when she faced resistance and disbelief. Now that same environment breathed innovation and inclusion. During a program evaluation meeting, Brian presented surprising data. "The projects developed by our students have already generated 5 international patents. That's more than the company registered in all its previous history." Jane complimented with financial information, and the return on investment continues to grow. The market is increasingly valuing companies with a clear social purpose and tangible results. The international expansion of the Phoenix program began to take shape. Sarah Martinez had sent a dedicated team to learn from the American experience. Julia Wong, the group leader, was impressed with what she found. "You've created something unique here," said Julia during a work session. "It's not just a social responsibility program. It's a new model of innovation that puts diversity at the center of the creative process." The impact of the program went beyond numbers and commercial results. In a project presentation event, Jason, the developer of the accessibility system, shared how his solution was changing lives. "We've received messages from people all over the world," he recounted, moved. "A teacher from rural India wrote to me saying she finally managed to include students with disabilities in her technology classes." Jason's story inspired other students to think of global solutions. Anna, for example, was adapting her internship application to include international opportunities. "Why limit our dreams to a single country?" she questioned during a presentation. Mariana, whose adaptive education platform had caught international attention, was preparing for her first trip abroad. "I never imagined that my experience in the outskirts of Chicago could generate a relevant solution for students on the other side of the world," she reflected. Amid all this effervescence, Emily received news that closed an important cycle. The square where she used to study would be transformed into a community technology hub with free high-speed Wi-Fi and space for courses and mentoring. "It's as if we were planting small seeds of the Phoenix program everywhere," commented Olivia, who now coordinated the expansion of social innovation centers. Jennifer Torres, observing the movement in the office, made a perceptive observation. "You know what impresses me the most? How you managed to transform a traditional company into a living organism, which learns and evolves with each new experience." At the end of that day, Emily found an unexpected gift on her desk. A picture frame with a photo of the old donated computer that started her journey into technology. Along with it, a card signed by all the students in the program. "To the woman who taught us that impossible is just a matter of perspective. Thank you for showing us that our dreams can have wings, but should never forget their roots." Looking out the office window, Emily could see the city stretching to the horizon. Somewhere out there, other Emilys were sitting on park benches, dreaming of a better future. The difference is that now they were no longer alone. The impact of Emily's work at Future Tech began to create waves that went far beyond the technology sector. On a busy morning, she was surprised by a call from the Department of Education. They wanted to implement elements of the Phoenix program in the national curriculum of technical schools. "It's a unique opportunity to democratize access to technology on a national scale, explained the Secretary of Professional Education during a video conference. Emily listened to the proposal attentively, already visualizing the possibilities for expansion. On the same day, during a meeting with her team, Emily shared the news. Brian, who had become a fundamental pillar of the program, immediately began to elaborate implementation strategies. "We can create a cascade mentoring system," he suggested, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Our more experienced students can become mentors in technical schools, creating a continuous cycle of learning and development." Sophie, who had been accompanying the growth of the program since the beginning, added an important perspective. "The most valuable thing is not just the technical knowledge, but the methodology we've developed. The way we integrate personal experiences into the innovation process." The news of the partnership with the government attracted even more attention to future tech. Journalists from around the world wanted to understand how a company that almost succumbed to internal problems had transformed into a global success case in social innovation. In an interview for an international technology magazine, Emily was asked about the secret of the program's success. "There is no secret," she answered. "There is recognition that talent and creativity are not privileges of a social class or a specific group." The impact of the program on the participants' lives continued to surprise. Maria, the developer who had created the application for small rural producers, received an International Social Innovation Award. Her project was already benefiting more than 10,000 families in different regions of the country. "The most incredible thing is to see how an idea born from my reality, from my family's experience in the countryside, can help so many people," shared Maria during the award ceremony, her voice choked with emotion. The transformation was also reflected in the company's numbers. Jane presented a report showing that future tech had become a reference in corporate governance and sustainable innovation. "Our market value has tripled since we began implementing these changes," she revealed. Jennifer Torres, who had accompanied the entire journey of transformation, organized a special event to celebrate the first anniversary of the Social Innovation Center. The space was full of success stories, prototypes of new projects, and mainly dreams under construction. "Look around," said Jennifer during her speech. "Each person here represents a possibility that could have been lost. Each project is proof that true innovation is born from the diversity of experiences and perspectives." During the event, Emily was surprised by a group of female students who had formed a collective of women in technology. They presented an ambitious project, a mentoring network focused specifically on girls from underprivileged communities. "You showed us that it's possible," said one of the young women. "Now we want to ensure that other girls also have that certainty from an early age." At the end of that day, while watching the sunset through the office windows, Emily received a message that made her smile. It was a photo of a public square in a small town in the countryside, where a group of young people gathered to study programming using the free Wi-Fi. "Our study group was inspired by your story," the message said. "We know it may seem impossible now, but you taught us that great transformations begin with small steps." Olivia, who was passing by the room at that moment, noticed Emily's smile. "What is it?" "Just realizing how stories repeat themselves," replied Emily, showing the photo. "But now with a different ending. These young people aren't alone as I was. They're already part of something bigger." Night was already falling over Chicago when Emily finally prepared to leave. On the way to the elevator, she stopped for a moment in the social space on the 12th floor. There, where she once faced prejudice and discrimination, now pulsed the heart of a silent revolution that was changing lives and transforming the future. The partnership with the Department of Education quickly began to take shape. In less than 3 months, 5 technical schools had already implemented the pilot program, and the preliminary results exceeded all expectations. The teachers report a significant change in student engagement, explained Brian during an evaluation meeting. When they realize they can create solutions for real problems in their communities, the motivation is completely different. Emily personally visited one of the pilot schools located in a peripheral region of Chicago. There, she found a class of teenagers developing a community alert system for risk areas during periods of heavy rain. The idea arose because we lost many days of class last year due to flooding, explained Carlos, a 16-year-old student. So we thought, why not use technology to help our community better prepare? Carlos's project and that of his colleagues caught Sophie's attention, who immediately organized a group of mentors from Future Tech to support the development. This is exactly the kind of innovation we seek, she commented. Solutions that are born from real needs and local knowledge. At Future Tech, the environment continued to evolve constantly. The reverse mentoring program, where young talents shared their perspectives with senior executives, had become a model studied by companies worldwide. It's impressive how this changed our way of thinking, commented one of the directors during a mentoring session. Being open to learning from those who theoretically have less experience made us question many preconceptions. Jennifer Torres, who continued to be one of the biggest enthusiasts of the changes, organized an international social innovation forum at the company headquarters. The event brought together representatives from different countries interested in replicating the Phoenix program model. What you've built here is not just an inclusion program, observed a French executive during the forum. It's a new innovation, paradigm that recognizes that the best solutions often come from those who experience the problems. During the event, Mariana presented the results of her adaptive education platform, which was already being used in 3 countries. We started thinking about helping students from the outskirts of Chicago, she said. Today, we're impacting lives on different continents. Jane, always attentive to the numbers, presented a revealing report. The company's social initiatives not only generated a positive impact on society, but also proved to be financially sustainable. Each dollar invested in the program returns, multiplied in innovation, engagement, and market value, she explained. We've proven that purpose and profit are not mutually exclusive. At the end of that day, Emily received news that deeply moved her. The community center that had donated her first computer was becoming one of the hubs of the Phoenix program. It's like we're closing a cycle, she commented to Olivia. That donated computer opened the doors to my future. Now we're multiplying that opportunity for thousands of young people. During a conversation with her team, Emily shared an important reflection. The true legacy of what we've built here isn't the numbers, the awards, or the international recognition. It's the certainty we've planted in the heart of each young person that their dreams are possible. Brian, who had grown along with the program, added, and more than that, we've shown that true innovation doesn't have a fixed address. It can be born anywhere where there is determination and opportunity. As the sun set over Chicago, Emily observed the movement in the square in front of the Social Innovation Center. Groups of young people came in and out, carrying their laptops and their dreams. Among them, she could see reflections of her own journey, but now with a different ending. You know what's most beautiful? Asked Sophie, who joined her in the observation. Seeing how each success story inspires other people to dream bigger. It's like a chain reaction of hope. Emily smiled, thinking about how a simple decision to discreetly visit the company on that first day had triggered such a profound transformation. It wasn't just about technology or social inclusion. It was about rewriting stories, breaking barriers, and proving that talent and opportunity, when they meet, can change the world. The success of the Phoenix program brought with it new challenges. With the international expansion and the partnership with the Department of Education, Emily realized it was time to scale the project without losing its essence. On a busy morning, she gathered her main team to discuss the next step. We need to find a balance, she said, observing the attentive faces around her. How to grow while maintaining the program's DNA. How to ensure that each new center maintains the same quality and purpose. Sophie, who had just returned from a visit to the pilot centers in technical schools, brought an interesting perspective. Perhaps the answer lies in our own history. What made the program successful wasn't a rigid formula, but rather fundamental principles adaptable to different realities. The discussion was interrupted by an international video call. Sarah Martinez wanted to share the first results of the program's implementation in the United States. We're seeing something fascinating here, she reported. Each community is adapting the model to its specific needs, but maintaining the essence of the project. Brian, who coordinated the mentoring team, presented an innovative proposal. What if we create a digital platform that connects all the centers? A space where mentors and students from different countries can collaborate on global projects. The idea quickly took shape. Maria, now a leader of special projects, began working with developers from around the world to create this collaborative network. Imagine a student from the outskirts of Chicago collaborating with another from Detroit on a project that can impact communities in both places, she exemplified. Jennifer Torres, always attentive to strategic implications, saw another potential. This wouldn't just be an educational tool, but a living laboratory of global social innovation. The platform project soon attracted the attention of international organizations. The UN expressed interest in using the model as part of its sustainable development programs. "You've created something that goes beyond technology," commented a representative during a visit. "It's a tool of social transformation." Jane, analyzing the financial aspect of the new project, brought good news. Several international foundations were interested in investing in the expansion of the program. But the most interesting thing, she highlighted, is that they want to maintain our autonomy in management. They recognize that our independence is part of the success. Amid these discussions, Emily received news that particularly moved her. Jason, the developer of the accessibility system, had been invited to present his project at an international conference on assistive technology. "You know what's most incredible?" shared Jason during a coffee. "When I started in the program, I thought my condition was a limitation. Today, I realize that it gave me a unique perspective to create solutions that really make a difference." In the Innovation Laboratory, a group of young developers was working on an ambitious project, an artificial intelligence system that could identify potential talents in underprivileged communities based not on traditional metrics, but on creativity and problem-solving ability. The idea is to further democratize access to opportunities, explained Anna, now a coordinator of special projects. "We want to find the rough diamonds that often go unnoticed by the traditional system." During a mentoring session with new students, Emily shared a reflection that had become increasingly clear. The true power of technology isn't in the computers or the codes, but in the ability to give voice and tools to people who always had a lot to say but were never heard. The expansion of the program also began to influence the corporate culture of other companies. Various organizations sought out future tech to understand how they could implement similar models of inclusive innovation. "The most gratifying thing," commented Sophie during a presentation to executives, "is seeing how this change in mentality is spreading. It's no longer about doing good as a parallel activity to business, but about integrating social impact into the company's DNA." At the end of that day, while organizing her agenda for the next week, Emily found an email that made her smile. It was from a group of young people from a small town in the countryside who had created their own mini Phoenix program using local resources and much improvisation. "Maybe that's it," she reflected, sharing the email with her team. "The true success isn't just growing, but inspiring others to create their own versions of transformation." The global platform of the Phoenix program was launched in an event that brought together participants from various countries. The auditorium of Future Tech, completely packed, vibrated with a contagious energy as Emily presented the new possibilities for international collaboration. "Today, we aren't just connecting computers," she said, her voice charged with emotion. "We're connecting dreams, stories, and potentials that, until recently, remained invisible to the world of technology." On the main screen, a live video conference showed students from different program centers around the world, from India to South Africa, from Brazil to the United States. Young talents shared their experiences in developing projects. "It's incredible to see how similar problems can have such different solutions when approached by people with different cultural backgrounds," observed Brian, who coordinated the session of international presentations. A young developer from Kenya presented an application that used artificial intelligence to optimize the use of water resources in arid regions. Her project had been born from a collaboration with Maria, who adapted her system of connection between rural producers to the African context. "Technology can be universal," commented the young Kenyan, "but solutions need to be local. The Phoenix program taught us to value our own perspective when creating innovation." Sophie, who had actively participated in the development of the platform, highlighted a fundamental aspect. Each center maintains its autonomy and local identity, but now can benefit from a global network of knowledge and collaboration. During the event, Jennifer Torres presented impressive data about the impact of the program. More than 10,000 young people had already passed through the different centers, generating hundreds of innovative projects and dozens of social impact startups. But the numbers don't tell the complete story, emphasized Jennifer. The true impact is in the change of mentality that we're promoting in the corporate world and in society as a whole. Jane complemented with an interesting analysis. The companies that adopted similar models to ours are registering not only better financial results, but also greater employee engagement and more capacity for innovation. In the social space of the 12th floor, now transformed into a social innovation hub, groups of mentors and students animatedly discussed the next steps of the program. Among them, Jason coordinated an international team focused on assistive technologies. "Each barrier we break opens the way for other people," reflected Jason. "Today, we aren't just creating accessible technology, we're making the creation of technology itself more accessible." Anna, who had just returned from a series of workshops in public schools, shared a touching observation. "The most beautiful thing is to see how children no longer ask if they can dream of working with technology. They simply start creating." At the end of the day, after the event, Emily found a moment of quietude in her office. On the walls, photos told the story of the program, from the first group of students to the recent international expansions. Each image was a testimony of how dreams can become reality when they find the fertile soil of opportunity. Olivia entered the room with a smile on her face. "Emily, you need to see this." On her tablet, she showed a viral video of an 8-year-old girl who had created her first computer program after participating in a Phoenix program workshop at her school. "When I grow up," said the little programmer in the video, "I want to be like Ms. Emily and help other people realize their dreams." The simplicity and sincerity of those words deeply moved Emily. It was a reminder that each success story wasn't just an individual victory, but a source of inspiration that would continue to echo through generations. "It's funny," she commented to Olivia, "how everything began with a discreet visit to the company, a test of humility that transformed into something much bigger than ourselves." As the sun set over Chicago, tinting the sky with golden hues, Emily thought of her mother, of the nights of study in the public square, of the donated computer that changed her life. Each challenge, each obstacle overcome, had transformed into a bridge for other dreamers. The morning began differently at Future Tech. The lobby of the building was full of young students from public schools, all eager to participate in the first Social Innovation Festival organized by the company. Emily, observing the movement from the mezzanine, couldn't contain her smile seeing the enthusiasm on the visitors' faces. "They remind me of you when you started," commented Sophie, silently approaching. "That gleam in the eyes of someone who knows they're about to transform their life." The festival was more than a technology fair. It was a celebration of the potential that is born when opportunities meet unexplored talents. Each floor of the building had been transformed into a different thematic space where participants could experiment, create, and dream. On the 12th floor, now known as the Laboratory of the Future, Brian coordinated a programming marathon with a special theme: technological solutions for local social problems. "The idea is to show that innovation begins with empathy," he explained to the participants. Maria, who had recently returned from a trip to Africa where she was implementing her system in rural communities, led a workshop on sustainable technology. "We don't need complex solutions," she taught. We need solutions that make sense for the people who will use them. In another space, Jason presented the latest advances in his digital accessibility project. A little girl in a wheelchair of about 10 years was testing the system, her eyes shining with joy as she managed to control the computer with minimal movements. "See?" said Jason to the girl. "There are no limits that technology and determination can't overcome." Jennifer Torres circulated among the environments, observing with satisfaction how the event naturally mingled different generations and social classes. Executives from large companies conversed as equals with young developers from the periphery, exchanging ideas and contacts. "This is what we've always dreamed of," she commented to Emily. "Her space where the only capital that matters is that of ideas and creativity." During lunch, served in the cafeteria that was once the stage of tensions and discrimination, diverse groups mixed naturally. Jane, analyzing the scene, made a perceptive observation. "You know what impresses me the most? How diversity has become so natural that no one needs to talk about it anymore." Anna, now one of the most requested mentors of the program, conducted a special session for girls interested in technology. "When I started, I needed to prove all the time that I deserved to be here," she shared. "Today, I want you to know that this space is already yours by right." In the main auditorium, a series of presentations showed the projects developed in the different centers of the Phoenix program around the world. A group of students from the rural Midwest presented an intelligent irrigation system that was already transforming family agriculture in their region. "Our solution was born from necessity," explained one of the young developers. "But the Phoenix program gave us the tools to transform this necessity into innovation." Olivia, circulating through the event with her camera, documented not just the official presentations, but mainly the moments of discovery and connection that happened behind the scenes. "Each smile here is a story of transformation," she commented. At the end of the afternoon, Emily was surprised by a group of former students of the program who now ran their own social impact startups. They had prepared a special tribute, a short documentary showing how the Phoenix program had changed their lives. "But it's not just about us," said one of them after the exhibition. "It's about all the lives we're managing to impact now, thanks to the opportunity we received." As the sun was setting, casting golden shadows through the windows of the building, Emily gathered her team for a moment of reflection. The festival had exceeded all expectations, not just in numbers but mainly in meaning. "Look around us," she said, her voice charged with emotion. "Each person here is living proof that talent and potential exist everywhere. We just need to create the right spaces for them to flourish." Sophie, who had been by her side since the beginning of the transformation, added, "And each of them will take from here not just technical knowledge, but the certainty that they can be protagonists of their own stories." The day was ending, but the seeds planted in that festival would continue germinating, creating new cycles of transformation and hope. At the exit of the building, Emily stopped for a moment to observe the last participants leaving, each carrying with them a piece of the dream that she had begun to build in that same place months ago. The success of the Social Innovation Festival echoed far beyond the walls of Future Tech. The following week, Emily was invited to participate in a series of international events about corporate transformation and technological inclusion. But before embarking on her global tour, she had a special mission to fulfill. On Tuan, a Saturday morning, Emily returned to the square where she used to study with borrowed Wi-Fi. The place had completely transformed. It now housed one of the largest community technology centers in the country, part of the Phoenix program network. "It's strange to be here again," she commented to Brian, who accompanied her on the visit. "Each bench in this square holds a story of persistence." The community center was buzzing with activity. Children and teenagers participated in programming workshops, while their parents attended digital inclusion courses. In one of the rooms, a group of women learned about technological entrepreneurship. "Miss Emily," called a familiar voice. It was Clara, a lady who had been selling coconut water in the square for years. "Do you remember when you gave me coins to buy water? Now my granddaughter is learning computing here. She says she wants to be like you when she grows up." Clara's granddaughter, Alicia, 12 years old, proudly showed the application she was developing. A system to help small merchants in the neighborhood to manage their businesses. "I learned that technology isn't just for rich people," said the girl, her eyes shining with determination. Sophie, who had arrived for a mentoring meeting, observed the scene with a smile. "You know what's most beautiful? Seeing how the cycle completes itself. Each success story inspires new dreamers." During the afternoon, Emily participated in a conversation circle with the students of the center. A young woman raised her hand. "How did you deal with people who didn't believe in you?" Emily thought for a moment before answering, "I transformed each no into fuel to move forward. And today, our mission is to transform these no's into yeses for the next generation." Jennifer Torres, who was also present, shared exciting news. The model of the community center would be replicated in another 100 squares across the country, thanks to a partnership with the federal government. "But we don't want to just replicate the physical structure," explained Jennifer. "We want to replicate this spirit of transformation, this certainty that talent and opportunity can flourish anywhere." Jane presented a report on the economic impact of the community centers. "For each dollar invested, we generate 5 in local development, but the social return is immeasurable." At the end of the day, the center received a special visit. Group of executives from different countries interested in implementing similar projects in their regions. Among them was Sarah Martinez, who couldn't contain her emotions seeing the project in full operation. "This is more than a technology center," commented Sarah. "It's a beacon of hope, showing that social transformation and technological innovation can and should walk together." Jason, who coordinated a digital accessibility project at the center, shared his perspective. "Each person who enters here carries a different dream. Our function is to show that all these dreams are possible." As the sun began to set, casting elongated shadows across the square, Emily gathered her team for a moment of reflection. The community center remained full, with young people and adults absorbed in their projects and discoveries. "Look around us," she said, her voice charged with emotion. "This square, which was once just a Wi-Fi access point for a dreaming girl, fares now a portal of opportunities for hundreds of people." Olivia, who documented everything for a new dissemination project, captured an especially touching moment. A girl teaching her grandmother to use a computer for the first time. "Each day here is a story of transformation," she commented. At the end of that visit, Emily stopped once more at the bench where she used to study. There, she recorded a message to be shared with all the centers of the Phoenix program around the world. This bench represents much more than a personal memory. It's a symbol that dreams know no limits, that talent has no fixed address, and that the future belongs to those who have the courage to imagine it differently. As she departed, Emily looked one last time at the community center, now illuminated against the evening sky. The lights of the classrooms shone like beacons of hope, guiding new dreamers on their journey of transformation. On a special morning at Future Tech, Emily observed the movement in the main auditorium through the glass of her office. It was the graduation day of the first international class of the Phoenix program, a moment that marked not only the individual success of the students, but the consolidation of a dream that had begun on a park bench. "It seems like yesterday that you first came here pretending to be a common visitor," commented Sophie, entering the room with a folder of documents. "And now look at all this." The auditorium was full of people from different countries, cultures, and backgrounds. In the first row, Margaret, Emily's mother, sat next to Sarah Martinez and other international executives. The unlikely mixture of people perfectly reflected the essence of what the program had become. Brian, now Global Director of Talent Development, took the stage to open the ceremony. "When I started as an insecure junior developer, I never imagined that I would be here today, seeing our program transform lives on a global scale," he confessed, moved. Among the graduates was Amara, a young woman from Nigeria, who had developed a revolutionary telemedicine system for rural areas. The Phoenix program taught me that innovation isn't about having the best resources, she said in her speech. It's about having the courage to look at problems with a new perspective. Jennifer Torres presented impressive data about the impact of the program. In just 2 years, we've trained more than 5,000 developers in 15 countries. But the numbers don't tell the complete story. Each graduate here represents an entire community being transformed. Jane, who had transformed the finance department into a model of social governance, shared a surprising analysis. The return on investment of the program exceeded all expectations. We've proven that social impact and commercial success are not mutually exclusive. During the ceremony, a special video was shown showing the journey of the program from its beginning. Images of Emily studying in the square blended with scenes from the various innovation centers around the world. The transformation was palpable, exciting, real. Jason, who now led a global division of assistive technology, presented a project developed in collaboration by students from 5 different countries, an artificial intelligence system that made technology more accessible for people with different types of disabilities. This project symbolizes everything the program represents, he explained. People from different realities, uniting their talents to create solutions that benefit everyone. Maria, newly arrived from a mission in India, where her system of connection between rural producers had been adapted to the local context, shared her perspective. Each country has its unique challenges, but the methodology of the Phoenix program taught us to find universal solutions through local experiences. Anna, who coordinated the female mentoring program, presented a particularly significant piece of data. 60% of our graduates are women. We're not just training developers, but transforming the face of technology. In the most emotional moment of the ceremony, each graduate took the stage not just to receive their certificate, but to share how they intended to multiply the knowledge acquired in their communities. We're not just training technology professionals, observed Olivia, who documented everything. We're training agents of transformation. At the end of the ceremony, Emily was called to the stage for a special speech. As she climbed the steps, she remembered her first presentation as a director, when she faced disbelief and prejudice. Now the environment was completely different. When I began my journey, she said, her voice charged with emotion, I dreamed of proving my worth in a world that frequently underestimated me. Today, I realized that the true mission was much bigger. To create spaces where no one else needed to prove their worth, just develop their potential. Emily's words echoed through the auditorium, touching hearts and minds. Each person present knew they were participating in something bigger than themselves, a silent revolution that was redefining the meaning of innovation and success in the world of technology. As the graduates celebrated with their families, Emily observed a particularly touching scene, a young graduate showing her project to her grandmother, who had never used a computer before. In the lady's eyes shone tears of pride and understanding of the transformative power of that moment. The sun was setting over Chicago, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold, when Emily finally allowed herself a moment of quietude in her office. The graduation party still continued on the lower floors, but she needed this instant of reflection to absorb all that had happened. On her desk, an old photo caught her attention. Herself, still a teenager, sitting on that park bench, studying with an old laptop. Next to it, a recent photo showed the Social Innovation Center that now occupied the same space. The contrast between the two images told not just her story, but the story of a much bigger transformation. Sometimes I still wonder if all this is real, said Sophie, who entered the room silently. I remember the day you confronted Richard on this same floor. Who could imagine where we would arrive? Emily smiled, remembering that crucial moment. You know what I learned, Sophie, that sometimes we need a no to create 1,000 yeses. Each obstacle I faced transformed into a bridge for other dreamers. Brian joined them, bringing exciting news. 3 of the projects presented at the graduation had already received investment proposals. And the best part, he added, the investors made a point of keeping the original developers in control of the initiatives. Jennifer Torres entered the room with more news. Governments of other countries had shown interest in implementing the Phoenix program model in their public education networks. "We're no longer just training developers," she said. "We're changing educational paradigms." Jane, always precise in her analyses, presented a surprising final report. Future Tech's market value has quadrupled since the beginning of the program. But the most impressive is the social return. For each developer trained, we estimate a positive impact on at least 100 people in their community. Maria, who observed the city through the windows, shared a reflection. "It's incredible how an idea born from personal necessity can grow and touch so many lives. My application for rural producers is now helping communities that I didn't even know existed." Jason approached the group, leaning on his new technological wheelchair, developed by students of the program. "Each barrier we break opens the way for other dreamers," he said. "We aren't just creating technology, we're creating possibilities." Anna, who had become an inspiring leader for many young women, added, "The most beautiful thing is to see how each success story multiplies. Each person we transform becomes an agent of transformation." Olivia, who continued documenting each important moment, showed a video she had edited, a compilation of testimonials from program students around the world. Each face, each story, each realized dream was a testimony to the power of opportunity when it meets determination. While they watched the video, Margaret entered the room. Her eyes shined with pride, seeing her daughter surrounded by so many people who shared her values and her worldview. "Daughter," she said, "you haven't just changed your story. You're changing the story of generations." Emily hugged her mother, remembering all the mornings when she left to work as a cleaner, ensuring that her daughter could study. Each success story we celebrate today began with someone who, like you, Mom, believed it was possible. The group gathered on the office veranda, observing the city that illuminated under the night sky. Each light represented a story, a potential, a dream waiting to be realized. "You know what moves me the most?" said Emily, her voice soft but firm. "Thinking that somewhere, at this exact moment, there's a young woman studying in a public square, dreaming of a different future. But now she's no longer alone, now she has a path to follow." The silence that followed was filled by the distant sound of the city and the certainty that this wasn't an ending, but the beginning of infinite new stories. The Phoenix program had become more than a technological inclusion project. It was a movement of social transformation that would continue growing and reinventing itself. "So what's the next step?" asked Sophie, a knowing smile on her face. Emily looked once more at the city, her eyes shining with the same determination that had brought her here. "The next